Welcome back to Veronica Live, and we are here with Tim Rivers. He has helped compiled this incredible book that John and I read, and it's called The American Gulag Chronicles. And I have to say my heart was breaking, Tim. And what the book is about, it's letters from the January 6th prisoners. And I'm totally disgusted after reading your book because they're treated so poorly. So how did you end up writing this book? Let's start there, Tim.
Well, absolutely. Before we do that, I'd like to say thank you for your service and your husband's service. Most of my career with IBM and Honeywell was with Federal Systems. I have a great respect for the military. My father was a Korean Air Force vet. And so
Excellent.
Really so appreciate what you guys have done for our country. And it's the spirit that everybody kind of to bring out. And that's what happened to me. I was working in election integrity, Professor Clemens, Mike Lindell, knocking on people's doors, checking our voter rolls here in Pasco County, Florida, and they were so screwed up. 40 to 50% of the houses I visited had something wrong with their voter registrations, even people voting from out of state who had, addresses in Florida. So that I bumped into all these people in Telegram working with that group, and here was these folks that were beginning to write to the prisoners of January 6th who were being grabbed up in these horrendous FBI raids. And they were such amazing people. I mean, the one person whose son had been arrested, Marie Goodwin, such a great activist. And I was just enthralled with them. I've been an activist all my life. And I realized that having known that the election was messed up, it was not a very big far jump that these guys and gals who were being arrested were basically, it was part of a false narrative to make a point, but more importantly, to make Americans fearful of ever doing that again, of ever coming into Washington and demanding that their representatives listen to their voices. And so I joined that group, and they were working with these people as a Patriot Mail Project, amazing group of people, back from the Bundys, back at the Bureau of Land Management problems in Oregon. And they basically track political prisoners and let you know where they are, how to write to them, what they need, how to support them and their families. And so I just randomly grabbed a name out of that hat and my wife and I wrote to this prisoner, just a 2-page letter telling him how sorry we were, what's happening, how much we believed in what they had done and wanted to support them. And I got back this letter, this 4-page letter that just blew me out of my retirement life again. I mean, I worked up to 2000. I got the military and a lot of people through Y2K, and then I said, enough, let me go home. But this was something that just demanded attention again, because this was an American war vet hero, 3 Bronze Stars for valor, 30-year veteran of Special Forces, Green Beret, Ranger, I don't know how many tours, 3 ODAs, just an American hero, folks. I'm sorry. He's been in places you and I never want to be and done things that you and I never even want to hear about. His war journals make me pee myself. And here was this man that was being thrown into prison, never been arrested in his life, was protecting an innocent old senior from being beaten mercilessly by a cop, and he's in prison. And he's not only in prison, he's being tortured. It just blew me away. And I just started writing more men and women and replying with my wife, and I immediately adopted this amazing veteran, trying to get his food and everything for him, and began writing other people. And their letters were so poignant, I just had to tell America what was happening to these people. And I just started posting the letters. And that's how it all began. Other people saw these letters I was posting and started sending me their letters that they had gotten from these people. Because literally thousands of people were writing these men. We were flooding their mail rooms, and some guys were getting hundreds of letters a day. And it was what was keeping them alive inside what I now call the gulags of America. And that's how the book got started. The accumulation was so great. The messages were so, well, you've read the book.
Oh, my gosh.
You can't get through it without crying.
No.
You can't get through it without wanting to break things.
Well, that's the thing, Tim, is that it was so. John and I were talking this morning, and it's
hard to believe this is America.
I can't believe this is America. The treatment that these prisoners are getting, because I had a co-host my first year on the air, and his brother was killed in 9/11, so he's been down to Guantanamo Bay, several times and seen these prisoners and what they get, and they're living this luxury lifestyle. And then in the book, I just can't even believe these letters got out, how they're pepper sprayed when they're in their room, in their prison cells, how their food is horrific, how they don't get medical care as required or dental care. I mean, I am sick to my stomach. And then they're just rotting there. Oh my goodness.
Jeff, that first letter, remember the first letter I just mentioned? Jeff McKellar, an amazing man, became a ranger, lived on, had no parents, grew up on the street by himself, joined the military at 17, became a ranger, served his tour, got out, 9/11 happened, went back in, became a Green Beret, served out his entire military career, then worked for you-know-who, 3 letters, doing protectorate work in places you and I have heard of and just don't want to go to.
Right.
And here he is right now, right this minute. You and I are talking. Jeff is in a prison in Dallas-Fort Worth. This month is 3 years without trial.
It's just disgusting. Where is the speedy trial? And reading through that whole book, I think some of the things that probably do sustain these people that came out was the love of Jesus. And then I think some of them, because they were veterans and had that training, that they're very disciplined. But I don't know how they're making it, Tim. I really don't.
They're making it because people are supporting them. People like you and I have been writing. I urge you to write them. But people like us have been writing them and telling them we're still here. As long as you're still there, we're still here. The fight is not over. And that sustains them. Imagine, you're in the military. You're behind enemy lines. Boy, when that message comes through from the head base, it's encouraging, is it not? There's others out there. There's hope and courage available.
To think that they're like POWs in Vietnam. I'm like, they're not even getting the right sustenance for eating. I'm so disheartened. We just had on the show, he's the vice chair for the Republican Party of Florida, and we discussed how this election is the most important election in our lifetime. And you're reading your book just nailed it for me. And then I was like, hopefully we've got to get Trump in so these people can be free. And then I hope Trump gives all of them $5 million, because what they've endured is just beyond, most people wouldn't make it, Tim.
And they have no idea. If you've read some of the stories about Ryan Samsel and some of these people, they have been brutalized. Ryan's lost vision in one eye, traumatic brain injuries, had multiple concussions, laid on the floor in cardiac arrest. These are incredible things that are happening within our prison system that America needs to hear, because one of the bases behind this is prison reform in this country must happen in the next administration. Now that we have revealed the horrors of what goes on behind these bars, what we've allowed our correctional system to degrade in, what we have allowed our veterans to go through without assistance, without aid. Listen, these J6ers can't go on air bases or military bases anymore. They can't get medical care. They've had their vet benefits denied. Some of them had their Social Security turned off. This is a pogrom that the Stasi would be proud of. And that's why I urge everybody, when you buy these books, we're a 501c3 that I formed. When I got going on this, I found some amazing people like me, patriots that decided enough is enough. And some of them been in the battle since 1992, since the LA riots. And we formed a nonprofit. We produced these books. The money from the books, the copyright is owned by the nonprofit. The money goes to sustain the families and the prisoners, help them get to courts, keep their families together and in their homes. So when you buy one of these books, not only is it tax deductible, you're going to own a piece of history. I urge you to preserve it, because the government would like this to go away. They would like these letters to disappear, they'd be digitally erased forever. And these books, at the end of 2024, you will either have an incredible piece of history on your coffee table that you can pass to your children to remind them of this horrible time in America and why you must never take your eyes off the ball if you wish to remain in liberty. Or you will own a banned book which needs to go under your mattress so that the feds don't come Fahrenheit 451 and burn down your house.
Well,
I'd like to play you.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I have a clip. I know some of the most recent things. We're talking about J6ers. They're the canaries in the coal mine, but they're not alone. These people are coming for you and I. If we have a minute and 50 seconds, I'd like to play you something that just happened that is so indicative of what what we face as journalists, as podcasters, as purveyors of truth. This is who they're coming for. Steve Baker was just arrested by the FBI for misdemeanors, held in chains and shackles before a judge, while next to him, somebody who'd been convicted of horrible assaults, basically was unrestrained in any way, shape, or form. This is all about fear. And he puts it so succinctly. Journalism is a difficult thing to believe sometimes, but here's a man just walked out of a courtroom, and listen to what he says to you.
I probably don't have a lot to say right now. I need to process for a little while. I'm actually still shaking a little bit. I don't like what I just went through. I don't like the deliberate humiliation that they put me through. There was no reason to do that. There was no reason to march me into a courtroom in leg chains today. There was somebody there answering for a felony, and they weren't in chains. Charges are misdemeanors. It's just it's mind-boggling. But that is unfortunately the type of selective persecution that January 6th defendants are facing. And ultimately, what we are looking at here, and probably the only reason that many of the January 6th defendants have had to go through what they've had to go through, is because of what I've talked about so many times and what I've written about so many times. It's called scary words. It doesn't matter if it's Stuart Rhodes. It doesn't matter if it's the grandmother who chanted USA, USA in the Capitol. It's the scary words that were said. If you don't say the right thing at the right time and conform to the right narrative, that's what they're going to do, is they're going to come after us, and that's exactly what's happened. It's not.
Now, not a scary statement or what. There's a man just walked out of a federal district court, and you can't get much closer to the truth than that kind of visceral reporting. And I'm afraid that is the message that we have for everybody. None of us is safe, not veterans, not podcasters, not even representatives of the nation or the state are free from this type of abuse and oppression. And now that's what the books are about. The second book, you just read the first one. Oh, my gosh. The second one, by the way, is 30% bigger than the first one, because it covers the trials and the sentencing, the destruction of the families, the destruction of their businesses, and something that I've kind of coined myself, I'm calling it civic death. Civic death. Because that's what happens when you are convicted of a felony. They take away all of your constitutional protections. They take away your rights. They pillorize you so all the BLM and Antifa folks know where you live, and then they say you can't have a gun to protect yourself. And you can't speak out in public. You can't be around other patriots. You can't associate with other January 6ers. You can't speak to the press. And God forbid you signed a plea deal, you can never go back and appeal. And these are horrible things that are happening to ordinary Americans, and not just J6ers. And this is the time, if you have anything left within you, if you have lost your faith, or I'm not sure, have you lost your faith or have you lost your nerve, churches of America? You've been silent. You've been silent through all of this. And so now I call on ordinary Americans, on veterans and citizens alike, to find that patriot gene within you, to understand, to look at a picture of your children and your grandchildren, to imagine them living life in a communist, socialist society and being subject to the losses of liberty and tyranny that we see right now, and find the strength within you to resist and to be part of the solution. That's all I could ever say to anybody.
Yeah, Tim, unfortunately, the problem with the churches is they're more concerned about their tax-exempt status than they are about preaching the truth, from the pulpit, and trying to get their people engaged in what's going on. I'm just curious, where does this come from? I mean, it appears they went out of their way to make a special case just for the January 6ers, because it's like every civil right, every Bureau of Prisons, whatever rule and stuff is all being thrown out the door just for the January 6th people. I mean, in the regular prisons, they would not get away with doing any of this stuff in a regular prison. And how is it that this happens?
I think, John, you may have a false impression of what's really happening in America's prisons right now, since the capitalization and corporatization of many of the facilities even outsourcing of administrative duties, hiring of non-Americans as security guards and COs. Again, this book kind of illustrated for you. So most of what you read in book one was about the D.C. Gulag, which isn't really a prison. It's a jail. It's the D.C.'s Department of Corrections jail that's under contract with the U.S. Marshal Service to hold federal prisoners during trial in the district. And you're only supposed to be there for a week or two. People have been in there almost 3 years. And it's one of the worst run facilities. It's staffed by people who hate Republicans, who hate Donald Trump, who hate J6ers. And you've read of the abuses in book one. But when you get to book two, The Art of Confinement, which picks up in September of 22 and takes you through October of 23, you're going to begin to hear about what happens in the prisons, which are sometimes even worse and more violent. You're going to hear of cellmates dying of overdoses, being stabbed to death, people not being able to go into showers for fear of their lives. Pre-trial defendants being placed in general populations in supermaxes.
That's insane.
By the way, the rule is pre-trial defendants are never to mix with convicted felons or convicted prisoners of any kind. And yet they have broken that rule repeatedly to place these men and women in harm's way and influence them to take plea deals because they're in fear of their lives. How does this happen? How does it get this far? I understand the question, and why are they singled out? But I'm telling you, they're not singled out, and this has become my message. These constitutional violations, not only within the justice system, but within the prison system and within the corrections, the after correction systems, they are so prevalent now. You have no idea how little constitutional protections you have left. And it's not just J6ers. It's people who protest at abortion clinics. It's parents and teachers who refuse to fall into the woke category. It's parents who hate their sexualization of their young children. All of these people, they're meeting these people in prison, folks. Listen to my interviews with Zach Rail and some of these other Proud Boys right after their sentencing in D.C. You can go to find all my stuff at J6, letter J, number 6, patriotnews.com. Visit my interview section. Let them tell you in their own voices. Visit my blogs, Letters from Prisons. Read these letters. I post new letters every day. It's just hard to understand that this goes on and on in the public eye, in broad daylight, and yet nothing that we have done, no pleas that we have entered, no habeases we have filed, no demands upon constitutional protection have even slowed down the meat grinder of the D.C. district, and their wanton destruction and the FU that they give to the Constitution at every given opportunity within these courts. I sit and listen to these cases back when it was available on conference during COVID, and you would not believe what's happening in these courtrooms. It's not American justice. Like you said, prisoners at Gitmo are afforded more defense.
Oh my goodness,
so
true.
So this is the message. It's just not J6ers anymore, folks. It's all of us. We are next, and that's what these guys tell.
Well, I was really moved by the art in that book. That the prisoners, that they use M&Ms to put color on, because they really don't have anything to use. And just the commentary, how they miss their family, how they miss petting, their dog, because they're living in hell. They're absolutely living in hell. My question, because I did go to your J6patriotnews.com, how did you get these interviews with the prisoners?
Yeah, I was one of the first people that started doing that. We communicated with them through their families, through the Patriot Mail Project, which once again is how you can write to these guys. I do urge you to do it. Veterans, if you're listening to me, I know you're in Pensacola. I'm going to tell you who these people are. Lieutenant Colonel Harry Brock is a graduate of the Air Force Academy, a patriot and a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force who served this country in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. He went to that rally on January 6th to support President Trump and to ask for truth about the election. The police let him in without objection, and he urged everybody to please respect the people's house. Larry is serving a 2-year sentence in Springfield, MO, starting on May 29, 2023. His family misses him badly and his 9-year-old son, and he's constantly in our prayers. And he just wrote a letter in October. By the way, Larry is one of the people whose case just got accepted and ruled in favor in the appeals court that the use of what we call sentencing enhancements is unconstitutional, and he was sentenced to 2 years for misdemeanors and using those enhancements when he should really have received probation. And so we're seeing these things flipped, and I think that's a good sign. I really do. But his letter, his most recent letter, which was in October, that was published, you can find it on our website. He goes, Dear Barbara, day 80 in the hole, day 136 as a political prisoner. Dear Barbara, thank you for writing me. They have not allowed me to speak to my attorney since the 23rd of August, so I have no idea or updates on my appeal. The arguments were supposed to have happened in September, and they issue verdicts in 30 days. There's nothing normal about any of our cases. I pray multiple times a day for Jesus to help them make good decisions. I daily ask God to deliver me after I pray for others, including my oppressors. And before I came to prison, I asked God to deliver me from prison. But I did say that it was his will and not mine. As always, I will close by saying, God bless you, your family, President Trump, and God bless America. Lieutenant Colonel Harry Brock, Springfield Gulag, political prisoner. This is who's in prison, folks.
It's so amazing because, you have New York, they get arrested for shooting somebody and then they're out the next day. And these people, so many just walk through the door that was being held open. I don't know. I've been saying for weeks now that we live in a banana republic, and I feel that way.
If you're an illegal and you assault a police officer in New York City,
kick him in the head. Nothing.
You can't get out the door fast enough before they let you go. But God forbid you should walk on the Capitol property, and get arrested. I'm just curious, Tim, on the treatment. First off, the book. I was really surprised at the number of people where there are pictures of these people, and they're all, not all of them, most of them were military, served their country in uniform, which to me was kind of stunning. But, Biden came out not long ago and was almost gleeful at the treatment, of these people, 800 years in prison, and all this kind of stuff. And I was just stunned at that kind of attitude. We sit here as a country and we criticize China, as this terrible place, because they have Jimmy Lai, from Hong Kong, Apple Daily, in prison, and a gulag basically, and then Navalny in Russia, we're gonna do this to Putin, because he's got political prisoners, and then we do at least the same thing, if not worse, in our country, and nobody bats an eye. Well, you can get involved. People, people listen to your shows and listen to me because they want to know first they want to get involved from a point of view of understanding. And so I can help you with that. The president of my nonprofit, who's also an activist star in his own right, Mr. David Shimral, he runs a website that he started during the LA riots called Stop Hate. And it's not the left Stop Hate. He was the original Stop Hate, and it's an acronym that talks about, stop hating each other and fomenting division between Americans. And him and a group of people have finally produced what I consider the final documentary video for January 6th, where you will actually see how it happened in chronological order with events showing side by side with timestamps. So you really understand how badly skewed the narrative that they are using at the administration level, at the talking heads in the press room, and even mainstream media's sycophantic reporting, how badly skewed it is from the truth. You can go to stophate.com, go to his interview section, look for the documentary called J6, A True Timeline. Once you see that 56 minutes or 1 hour video, you're going to need a drink. Because you're just going to be shocked at how badly skewed the lie has become. And so that's one thing you can do, educate yourself. The second thing you can do is help preserve this truth. You can get these books at lettersfromprison.us. They're coffee table books. They're beautifully printed, beautifully illustrated, and they preserve the story of what's happened over the last 3 years in this country. And so if you buy these and keep them for the future and prosperity, don't buy a couple. Donate one to your library. Donate one to a person who doesn't believe this is happening in America. That money will go to join the fight. And even simply just write to these amazing American patriots and tell them you have not forgotten. Join me on the porch at 9 o'clock at night and sing the national anthem with these people in gulags across this country. Show your solidarity for them and for this nation, and find the patriot gene within yourself once again.
Well, we've got a guest coming on after you, and he's a missionary, but he sent me yesterday 2 videos because he was there January 6th, and it's not like what they're portraying. One of them, they were singing the national anthem, everybody waving flags. So, it's so frustrating. So, and then, of course, this reporter that was arrested yesterday because he covered this, we don't have free press. It's just, where do we go from here, Tim? Because if we don't win in November, I want all of these people let out of prison in November. That's got to be Trump's first thing he does.
Well, hope takes courage, Veronica. Hope requires courage. You have to believe in the potential of a future to have hope. And so I urge everybody to find the courage within yourself. Again, look at those pictures of your children, your grandchildren. Look at the future of America. You might not be able to build the future for your children, but you can build children for the future. And that's what we have to pay attention to now. If we don't make it in 2024, the battle is not over because we're still breathing. We still believe in America. You still have an opportunity to raise the next generation correctly. So the fight will never be over as long as many of us still breathe, and I believe that's true of most veterans. That oath never expires for you. It never expires for any of us.
No, it doesn't.
And I think all of us can make a difference. I am nobody special. I am not. I'm just another American, another retiree who sees something broken and refuses to leave it for my children and grandchildren. And I think all of us are capable of that. All of us are capable of great things, but you must activate your patriot gene. You must see the need, and when you're called, you must answer. And if that happens, we will save this country.
Well, well said. And we are fighting the fight here. And we've been talking with Tim Rivers. The book is The American Gulag Chronicles, and you can go to j6patriotnews.com. And, I didn't even get to listen to all of the prisoner interviews. There's so much there, Tim. We can't thank you enough for fighting the fight. And, hopefully November goes our way and all of these people get out, and I hope they get compensated, because that was the other thing. Reading your book, these people have lost everything, businesses, family, it's just so sad what they've gone through. And I don't think they're bad people, honestly.
No, they're not. And that's what the books do. You will see the humanity in these people. You will recognize them as the folks that went to church with you, the people that you may have worked with, the EMT who came to rescue you when you had a heart attack, the police officer who showed up to help you during the car accident. That's who these people are. And when you hear their stories and you see their humanity in these books, I hope it sets your heart on fire and makes you mad. I'm furious, Tim. I hope it makes you furious, Veronica, furious, John, furious, Joe. Make yourself mad and turn this disappointment into purpose.
Well, God bless you. And we've been talking with Tim Rivers on the Veronica Live Show. Go to j6patriotnews.com, and we hope to have you back, and we're going to fight the fight. So thanks, Tim, for joining Veronica Live.
Thank you very much. And as Jeremy Brown, Green Beret says, America, don't do nothing.
And we'll be right back on Veronica Live.